to this week's episode of Metal Monday. Obviously, I am not Rick Hall, as is quite evident. I'm stepping in for him tonight because Rick had to work. So, of course, we got to keep the train rolling, keep the show going. So that's what we're doing here with Metal Mondays. And so today, we've got Steve Rowlands behind me from Scorn. It's great to have him. I know before you were multiple members of the band, but tonight you're playing as a solo, so very excited for that. So we do this every Monday. For those who don't know, Rick normally hosts these. It's me this week, so bear with me as we get into this. But really excited for today and to be able to host this event because we have to showcase local bands and musicians. So tonight, without further ado, we've got a little set from Steve Rowlands of Scorn.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
That was fucking amazing. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in so far, and thanks for Steve for playing a little bit here for us. So we've got more coming up. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to get set up for a bit of a chat. So stay tuned. We're coming back for more Metal Mondays, and we're going to be chatting with Steve about where he got his musical influences and how Scorn came to be and all his other projects. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. and welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Metal Monday. I'm Nick Weaver of Gain Media, or formerly Gain Music, stepping in here for Rick Hall today because unfortunately his work's shifted around. So, step in and jump up to do some interviewing on Metal Mondays today. So today, as everyone knows, we've got Steve Rollins here. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Steve, you're in multiple bands. So I've been saying you're in Scorn, but obviously you're also in Unbowed and Invicta.
Yep. Yeah, I play bass for Invicta, and I play guitar in Unbowed.
Yeah, so I always forget about that you became an official member of Invicta. So I think when I was first writing the questions, I didn't have that involved, so I was trying to fix it all in and be like, make sure it's there, and then because those guys are great dudes.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. I got, I guess I should say, inducted into Invicta officially. But they're really great guys, and it's just good, fun music to play. Like, I love thrash metal, like, obviously, as from the set, or you all saw. But, like, yeah, they're really good guys, and it's fun playing to them. And, yeah, I play guitar in Unbowed, and it's just great playing with those guys again, and just fucking nothing but laughs with those guys. And shout out to the lads, all of them. But, yeah.
That's awesome. That's wicked. So I always love with these, between Rick and I, we got to just kind of chat and get to know about everyone who's on these shows, because I think so often we see each other at shows and it's see each other like kind of every once in a while, but these are great because we got to kind of have a chat and get to know about who you are a little more in depth.
Yeah.
So you're originally from Guelph, is that true?
Yeah, born and raised.
So what was it like growing up in Guelph for you?
It was pretty so the Unbowed guys were on a little while ago, and I didn't grow up with them. I met them a little bit after high school, and I grew up in a more of a Catholic household, and not really strict Catholic. My father didn't really care much for that stuff. My mother tried to get us to go to church and stuff like that, and put us in Catholic schools growing up and all that.
That. Not the Catholic side, but I can relate.
Yeah. But it was pretty good growing up in Guelph. I really like the city. It's a lot of people say it's a small town with big city vibes. And I definitely get that when you come downtown. It's just a great feeling, and like, well, except for as of late with all this whole COVID ordeal, but you know what I'm talking about. It's just tons of people typically downtown, and Frosh Week is just relentless, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it definitely adds some diversity to the city as far as that.
For sure. Yeah.
So, when would you say you kind of got into metal or heavy music? Was that kind of a younger thing, or was that kind of later on in life, like high school sort of thing?
Yeah, I've always kind of been into it, but a bit later in high school, I really started focusing on it and getting heavily serious with it. I joined a band, and then I ended up just kind of going from there in terms of I just fell in love with the music and fell in love with bands like Black Dahlia Murder and stuff like that, some of the newer wave of death metal bands and all that. Yeah.
So was it a gradual progression? Like, were you into grunge stuff before and it kind of led up to that, or was there any in between, or was it just like that's what I love?
A little bit. I wasn't too big into the grunge. Not that I don't like it. It's just I wasn't heavily into it in high school, and I basically transitioned from listening to Rush and classic rock, and then just going straight to death metal. And I was
nice.
This is it.
Good transition. That's a good transition.
Yeah.
Do you have any early memories of first concerts or first musicians that sort of inspired you to kind of get into what you're doing as well?
Oh, big time, yeah. The first concert I ever went to was it was actually a Pink Floyd cover band, and that was really cool. The lights were amazing, and they killed it and all that. But I was really young then, and then my first, I guess you'd say, metal concert that I went to was Slayer in grade 6 with my dad. He took me to see them, and it was just nuts. Yeah, it was. It was just little 12-year-old me, oh, this is kind of weird, but it's kind of cool at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not a intro to the metal scene that a lot of people get. So that's
for sure.
That's pretty amazing.
No, I'm blessed in a way.
So did you find that you did have, like you said, your father kind of brought you to that? Were your parents very encouraging for you to kind of pursue that? Or?
Yeah, 100%. Both of my parents were super just into me doing whatever I really wanted, and they pushed me to do whatever I wanted. That was the main thing. They said I would come to them with ridiculous things like, can I join a snowboarding camp in Chile? And my mom was like, well, if we can get the money and if you're really into it. And I was, wow, okay, really. So yeah, they were super supportive of the music and all that.
That's amazing, because it inspires some initiative, because it's well, wait, I can actually do this now.
Exactly, yeah. It's you're not afraid to show it because your parents are super for it. You're almost just afraid to show how much your parents love it because they can be embarrassing at times, right?
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's very unique and pretty amazing for sure.
Yeah.
So have you then always kind of been involved with bands, or is that again a high school thing, or was that, or do you have other bands before these current projects sort of thing?
Yeah, so I started playing a lighter rock with a bunch of guys in high school, and earlier, grade 9, 10, and stuff like that. I didn't get into bands until I joined high school. I met all the musician kids around then. And so I started in a light rock band. We call ourselves the String Mittens, and we actually all bought string mittens, and we made it to the Battle of the Bands final at Ross. So we played okay, I guess. But yeah, that was definitely the intro to it.
There almost seems to be a theme with, mittens and kittens or something like that with some bands, like early bands. Like I remember there was something about Run with the Kittens. There was a band, and there was something else I remember from high school, also from Ross. There was another band with that. So that's an interesting connection.
Yeah. Great minds, man.
Yeah,
Great minds.
Exactly. Starts with the cats.
Exactly.
So you also had a band called Northern Cry before this.
Yeah, it was just Northern Cry.
Northern Cry.
And that was a brainchild of an old friend of mine, John Catrone. He was the lead singer and guitar player, and he wrote and recorded everything. And we just, a friend of mine, the old drummer for Scorn, Julian, and I, we just used to, well, we were part of the band, but we didn't make too much of it. We just were essentially a live band, right? And that was my first intro to like really heavy metal. I was playing bass in that, and it was more of like a Children of Boding Me style, Winter Sun type stuff.
Yeah, because I do remember like booking you guys a couple times. But it's funny when I was doing the research, not that I'd forgotten about the band by any means, but it's funny when projects kind of evolve, you almost feel that it turns into something else. It almost feels like that kind of bred Scorn and everything else that kind of
100% it did, for sure. Yeah, because Julian and I went off and made that because John kind of fell out of the metal scene and all that. He wasn't too much into it anymore. He's just a super accomplished musician, was like classically trained or something and all that, and he's just ridiculous. And so
classical
metal
musicians.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But
one sitting behind the camera right now.
But he was great. But Julie and I just tended to fall towards the more brutal side of death metal, where John was more into like the really classic virtuoso type stuff, Winter Sun and all that, and Julian and I like Deeds of Flesh and Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a little more kind of chaotic than the structured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you come from then? You don't come from a classical background. You kind of taught yourself, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I did have a teacher, Jason Rasso, actually locally from Guelph, and he was
the Rasso connections.
Oh yeah, and he honestly was the best thing that ever happened to my playing, because without all the stuff that I took from his lessons and I still look at the book that he gave me like years ago. He wrote down everything you need to know as a guitarist for me, and I still go back to it whenever I need to know something. And he basically shaped he's a jazz player, so it's weird to say that he shaped the way I play today, but like he truly did, because it's just like what he taught me like inspired me to go further and get it, you know what I mean? And listen to a lot of jazz players and stuff like that, and I'm really influenced by that.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think sometimes it's easy to kind of pigeonhole yourself and be like, I like this music, and especially growing up younger, I remember being only liking certain types, and not kind of realizing and recognizing that all these other influences come into play when you're writing or when you're creating or any of that music. Like no one band is like, that's my one solo influence.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm exactly like that. My father told me to just like listen to whatever you want, unless it's country and western. And so I basically listen to that, except for I listen to country and western because I love it and I don't care. So, but he instilled that in me. If it resonates with you, just listen to it. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, you're from Guelph. I feel that's kind of a natural thing.
Yeah,
it's
sure,
very much around this area.
100%, very eclectic group of people and music styles around this scene.
I'd say country is not something I got into until Guelph. I mean, I grew up in Palmerston, so there was a lot of country, but I wasn't into it back then because
probably just bashed on your head with it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I was definitely went the Corn direction instead.
Okay, nice.
So the current project you're running, aside from Unbowed and Invicta, which we'll get into a little bit, is Scorn. And recently, I guess it's become a solo project as opposed to you had 3 members in it before.
Yeah.
So what was it that kind of inspired you to kind of make it just a solo project and not have other members involved?
Well, Julian, kind of our old drummer, Julian, and all that, he just kind of wasn't getting wasn't as into the metal anymore. That he doesn't want to play it, and he had some health issues as well in terms of like wrist stuff. Because like drumming like this, it's insane.
It's intense.
Like, yeah, exactly. I couldn't imagine doing it, and so like it's a given that most drummers like that play that stuff have health issues when it comes to like their arms and stuff like that. And he just wasn't feeling it as much anymore. So I decided to kind of kibosh the whole thing and make a kind of a solo project. I did have a bassist, Aiden Watkinson, who also plays bass in Unbowed as well, and I'll still get him to play live if I ever do get a live thing, but it's just not a priority right now. So I decided to I'll write music for a little while and by myself and just kind of put a couple albums out and see what happens.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of musicians are going that direction, and it kind of, I mean, it's nice writing off of people, but sometimes it's just, I just want to write this and have no other input.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And I do love the external output, or input, but sometimes it's just like me in my head, and I got to get ideas out, and I just can't get them out across when there's other people there. So I just sit in my room and do it all up there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. So do you find though in the writing process, does anything change for you when you hit the studio? Like if you're going in with somebody like Alex or somebody like that, is there still some changing that happens for you in that songwriting process?
Yeah, for sure. I try to get my ideas across, but I won't push them as hard, obviously because other people might not be so open to them, and I totally understand that. And so writing songs for Unbowed for the latest album, it's been a completely different process, because with Scorn, it's just like what I lay down is typically what I release, but not always. But with Unbowed, it's a lot of give and take type thing. So especially because they're such they were like pretty established before I joined the band, and now being able to write new stuff for the music and stuff like that, I don't want it to change a whole lot, and I still want to keep it consistent, but I still want to throw my flavor in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So there is some contribution from all of the members
100%.
and all of that sort of thing. So
for sure.
That's great. So, and that's interesting too. I mean, I think with the Guelph music scene, it's always been very evident that there's a lot of, crossover and bands and musicians playing with each other and sort of thing. So kind of seeing that emergence of Scorn and Unbowed and all these other kind of projects coming into essentially one big mega band almost.
Yeah, we're just a big super group here. We love it.
Sound of Animals Fighting. I guess I should also, of course, throw out the Becomes Astral throw, because they were playing. In case anyone was listening earlier, of course, I didn't give the shout out, but Becomes Astral was playing on the In Between, if you're wondering what that was.
Yeah, my boys.
So to date, you've released a couple EPs and everything on your Bandcamp page. So what when you're writing these songs and everything, I know recently I feel it's like a thing, you just come up with a song and throw it a single. Do you have like a concept in mind for a whole album before you put it out, or is it kind of just song by song and you piece it together?
Typically the latter, song by song. I'm not too big on writing the kind of whole concept album and stuff like that, and mostly because I'm just not the greatest lyricist, and like getting thoughts together in my head, it's the hardest thing to do, to be able to put it down on paper and then sing it. So it's mostly about there's kind of an overarching theme in most of it, and it's mostly about like inner self and problems you have with like depression and stuff like that most of us go through. And I just try to put that in an aggressive way. But for the art wise, I try to have like a consistent theme where I like kind of more like theater stuff. I like Shakespeare and all that stuff, and so I kind of dive a little bit into that with like the art style and all that, because I feel like it hasn't been done too much before. So
yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because you seem to have some very literary influences as far as just the titles and the song names and all that sort of stuff. So does that come into play when you're writing as well, the lyrics, or?
A wee little bit, not too much, because I try to focus on more like what's going on in my head, and subconsciously, obviously, you will be like drawing upon things that you've learned and all that, things that you like and stuff like that. And so I tend to do that a little bit, but for the most part, it's just like I'll think about a certain idea in my head that I've been struggling with, or someone I know has been struggling with, and I'll try to write about that in an aggressive way.
Just throw it out there and have it relatable. That's amazing.
Throw a couple swear words, A
little cursing, a little thrashing.
A little bit.
That's great. So, and you've also worked with obviously like a lot of people, like we mentioned, Alex Lane from Becomes Astral, those guys. What's it like with that group? I mean, I feel sometimes like I see it a little from the exterior. I've seen you guys kind of all hanging out and doing like what you're doing, sort of thing. But what's that like, kind of behind the scenes?
It can be chaotic. It's very fun. It's honestly nothing but laughs, and we smoke a lot of weed and drink a bunch and hang out all the time. But at the same time, we can get down to the nitty gritty and like when we need to. And so like writing this album the past year with Alex and Johan and the guys, it's been fantastic, because they're just a great bunch of guys. They're hilarious. There's nothing but laughs when they're around and all that. They don't take much too seriously, except for their art, which I really respect, because it's like, that's what we do. We were artists. So yeah. It's just like I said, it's very chaotic, but at the same time, it's very grounding at times, because they're very intelligent people. Alex and Johan and those guys, it's great to have them around.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, shout outs to those guys. They do a lot of work locally, and the Nomadic Studios, of course, and all that. So with, I guess, like with your work with Invicta, how does that work? I know the guys are from the KW region. So how did that connection happen? Was that just through shows that you had met each other? Or?
A little bit, yeah. Shows and social media and stuff like that. And Kyle reached out to me and asked if I wanted to play bass for Invicta. Like, was it 2 years ago now? And so we had a few shows together, and they ended up liking me a lot, and liking the way I played, and so like it was perfect, because we both like the same styles of music, and they're all great guys in terms of like they're just hilarious, and it's nothing but laughs with those guys. It's great. Like they're just trying to have a good time and make everybody happy, and that's great.
Yeah, and you can tell because I know the couple times they were booked at District when Rick had booked them or myself or whoever, they would always come down with just like a full like truckload of people, basically.
Oh yeah,
like there's a whole
thrash metal scene,
crew that would
great,
come down, and I haven't seen that. I remember, Captain Ron and John and myself would go to like shows and like Scene Fest and whatever else back then and have a whole truckload of people. That hasn't happened in a while, so it's good to revive that.
It's unique to them for sure, and that's something that I'm very envious of not having that growing up in Guelph, being into like the death metal scene. There's not a lot of too many kids who are into the old school death metal stuff that I am, but those guys are, and so it's nice to be able to like come over here and like listen and play a bunch of black metal and stuff like that, and go over there and then play thrash metal and stuff like that, because I love it all. It's like I said, like if it resonates with me, I'll listen to it, and I'll also play it.
And it's a good family of people, I think, between Guelph and KW, kind of all together.
Yeah,
with
we
that,
all help each other. Alex has recorded Raider, my boys, and
another shout out for Raider.
Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff, and it's just it's one big happy family.
That's amazing. Well, we are trying to get those guys on, so if they're watching, hint, hint, come and do a Metal Monday with us.
That's I'll put a word in.
I guess over the years, you've been pretty busy over the years with everything you're involved with. Did you have anything kind of big in mind for this year? Like I know we've been talking a lot with a lot of different people over the last little while about big plans for 2020, and it was going to be this big momentous year, and all these things were going to change, and whatever else. Did you kind of have that feeling as well, or were you planning for anything big for Scorn or for? I mean, I know Unbowed's working on stuff, but
for the most part, I have another project called Re. It means king in Gaelic, and that's kind of what was going to be, or not, it still is going to be, but basically it's my main project that I've been focused on in the past little while. I'm going to be kind of putting Scorn a little bit to the wayside in a little while, once this newest EP is released and all that, and it's basically just more of a progressive metal type, and it's like a little bit metally, but more rocky and stuff like that, kind of guitar shreddy stuff, a little Steve Vai kind of thing going on with Pliny and all that, and I'm really into that music, and so that was kind of my main focus, and I plan on releasing an EP or an album within the year or so with that. So yeah.
Nice, that's amazing. So is that another solo project, or
purely solo.
Do you have plans like beyond that then for that, or is it kind of just right now you're just going to go with it?
Maybe in the like distant future. Yeah, right now it's just going to be a solo project for the foreseeable future, and just like kind of, if I can find the musicians that I feel would be good enough to play, then I would definitely get it. But like that wouldn't be for a long ass time right now. Yeah.
So was that a kind of recent project that you had started with prior, and you're just wanting to kind of continue it through then, or is that?
Yeah. I've been working on a bunch of the songs for a few years now, and then I really started to take it seriously this year, because I said to myself, well, I really want to make the music thing a career, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started doing a bit more Scorn and working with Unbowed a bit more, and just like trying to push myself more to do it. And Re is definitely a driving thing in that, because I want that to, I would like some kid just to be like, oh, your music's great, man, and like, that's kind of the dream. So hopefully one day with that and all my other music, I hope to have that one day, and just like touch somebody with my music, and
that's
for lack of a better words.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's the thing, and that's the hardest kind of transition to make, I think, is taking that plunge.
Yeah, 100%. And like I've had people say to me, it's just like going from death metal to other styles of music. It's kind of weird. It's just like, well, I'm fucking weird, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Like,
we're all weird. That's
exactly.
The beauty of it.
Yeah. Most metal musicians are really weird. So.
I think it comes par for the course sort of thing. Like it's we're all a bunch of weirdos all hanging out and creating art. It's great.
It makes us one big happy family, man. It's great.
It makes this function. It makes all this go. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So you mentioned the other musical projects and the inspiration for that. I don't know. I guess do you have like any other ventures beyond just the musical side of things, or is music kind of the primary thing that you're just kind of shedding everything else and just going with just music?
I would like to get some kind of job in woodworking somehow. I enjoy working with wood. And so I carve little runes, and I'm going to be trying to start up a little refurbishing business with my buddy, my roommate that I just moved into a little while ago, who I've been working with for a few years now. And he's really good with his hands and working with wood and all that stuff. And he has a brother who's a woodworker as well. So we've been learning a bunch and trying to do that. And so that would be kind of like a side thing that, I'm trying to get a bit into that. Yeah.
Nice. There's always that side hustle. And I know it's just kind of like you gotta keep yourself occupied and like learn new skills too. I mean, it's the time to do it.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time learning and just like reading. And I started reading a book by Carl Jung, and I've been getting into philosophy and stuff like that. And that comes through hanging out with Johan and those guys, because they're really into that stuff. So I never would have heard of these guys like Carl Jung and any of those people without like hanging out with these guys.
So was that would you team up with Jon then and do that with, because I know he's got his company kind of going with runes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be cool, but
be great
I'm not so sure on that. Yeah, for sure. I definitely need a lot more skill before I can keep up with him. So
it's all about making those connections, though. I love kind of putting the ideas out there and be like, well, you could do this, but this person, right?
Yeah,
like
well, we put we put the idea in each other's head every once in a while, but like it's more of a thing where I have to get a bit more heavily into it before I start taking it a lot more seriously and getting better at it, and where my products will be good enough to sell type thing in terms of like little knicknacks like the runes, the wooden runes and stuff like that. So
honing the craft and everything.
Exactly.
It's the skills to make. It's great.
For sure.
So I guess at this point we're gonna get back to a couple tunes.
Yep, I got two more for you guys.
Yeah, it's honestly been so great chatting with you, getting to chat a little
Same
hangout here, and it's
great.
like a live personal interaction. We don't get many of them, so it's amazing to have this. Eventually, we are gonna have more. I don't know what happened there.
A little mess up there.
Welcome to technical difficulties. So we are going to have some more shows. We're going to have Steve coming up to play in a little bit. But stay tuned next week where Rick is going to be back here. We're doing the punk edition of the Metal Monday. So it's a Metal Goes Punk. So switching it up a little and doing that.
Nice.
But once again, thanks so much for being here, for telling us about what you do, where you came from, and all that. And we'll take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be right back with more Scorn.
Later.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So thanks for joining us tonight. Again, Nick from Gain Media. Rick will be back next week with Frank Dukes. I never know how to say that. I'm sorry, guys. We'll figure it out next week, I guess. Thanks again for the chat with us today, Steve. So we'll get back quickly to another couple of songs, and be sure to tune in next week and the week after and the week after. We've got plenty to come. Thanks again. Here's Scorn.
Need to tune quickly for this last one. Alrighty. This is a song off the new EP that'll be coming out soon. Don't know when. We're
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
man.
you very much.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Give it up once again for Scorn, for everyone at home. Steve, that was amazing. So we'll be back next week. Well, not myself, but Rick will be here presenting Frank Dukes for you guys. So we're here every week. Thanks again to the entire Onyx crew, to Belay and Mike for behind the scenes, Cindy and the whole team. Thanks again, Steve/Scorn.
Thank you.
And there is a donation button online to contribute to both the artists and everything going on here. So make sure you hit that up, onyxnightclubguelph.com. Follow that regularly and find ways to contribute to the local art scene. And that's what we're trying to do here. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Peace.
woods down here.